Nintendo seems to be the savior of the physical games industry, quite literally. Now, we talked about this topic before, but if we were going to take a look at some unveilings that have happened, oh boy, it just got even crazier. First off, it seems like the backlash and the data doesn't really line up now, does it? This has been a giant topic across the internet. For weeks now, you'll realize that hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people, are rallying up to bring back physical media. Now, honestly, this is something that I vastly agree on. Physical media definitely is something that needs to stay. It's something that has wonders for the gaming industry. But now if we were going to take a look at the data that suggests otherwise, maybe PlayStation was onto something, says many fans across this entire space. You'll realize that only 10,000 physical copies have sold in the US for two separate PlayStation games. Now that definitely doesn't seem like a lot, and only 7 games have more than 100,000 copies sold within the past year. Now that is pretty crazy to really take a look at, but the reason why I'm like Nintendo is the savior of everything gaming is because they have way more than that. It seems from the data here, you'll realize that the physical games market is slowly going down over time. Since 2009, that has just kept going downwards, and you'll realize that this was because I believe in 2009, you had the first digital way to buy games online. We all thought this was awesome, this was cool, this was the new future, until realizing that you don't own absolutely anything if you go down that route. And it seems like from Nintendo's perspective, many fans are still going with the physical formatted games. Because with the recent release of Rhythm Heaven Groove, you'll realize that oh boy, that game has actually sold incredibly well. With at least 300,000 copies sold physically in Japan within the first 7 days. That is really crazy to take a look at, because 7 days for 300,000 copies on a brand new game, that is honestly seriously crazy, and it puts all of these things into perspective. Makes you realize that Nintendo is doing really well with physical game sales, and in fact with their brand new physical to digital sort of price split, definitely looks even greater. What do you think is going to be happening if they fully get rid of this? PlayStation seems to be ignoring the entire community, in fact, the entire world, with not answering a single thing on why they decide to do this. Is it because to save on pollution? Because note to self, it's probably not going to be saving on pollution if that's exactly what you're thinking on. If you're going to get rid of the physical games, well then I'll tell you right now that a lot of the world, more than 50% of the world, doesn't have access to the PlayStation Store. You get rid of the PlayStation Store, what are they going to do? How are they going to buy physical games? You can't get physical games anywhere. Well then obviously, they're either going to switch platforms, which it seems like a lot of people are doing. Nintendo has increased Nintendo Switch 2 sales. If we take a look at the chart compared to PlayStation or Xbox, you realize that oh boy, they're miles ahead. And this seems to be all because of this physical to digital controversy. When you go to a Nintendo platform, the physical games are there to stay. And it seems like Splatoon Raiders is also going to be selling just as well in a physical format. It seems that many of you are buying that game online, or you're going to the actual store to pick up your copy of Splatoon Raiders. I've seen it all over the place that all these physical collectors are just going out buying games, and it seems from this entire scare, the physical games market has gone even higher than it originally did, most likely due to Nintendo games. It seems like it's up 3% over the past month. Now that doesn't sound too much, but it definitely is something to look at and be excited about. That yeah, physical games, we might actually be doing it. But overall, all of these things aside, definitely could lead into the idea that hey, maybe they're going to reverse on their decision, they're going to backtrack it, because the data and the player frustration doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If it truly is 90% of people are already going digital, well then why is the backlash so high in the first place? Is it all Nintendo fans going out there in fear that hey, Nintendo's going to be getting rid of physical games? Now what the heck am I going to do to buy my game? Do I have to go digital, or another way that you can do it is sailing the high seas? In fact, this is something that has been going around. It has making the rounds that people are now going to decide to sail the high seas to become the mighty pirates. First off, you'll have the raise of pirates. If you get rid of physical games, pirates are going to be returning from the dead. One of the big reasons why pirating was so popular in the first place was the lack of accessibility. If you can't access your game, well, obviously there's going to be the, well, do I want to buy it on the PlayStation Store that I don't actually own? Or do I want to sail the high seas and get my game for a little bit of a price cheapness? Don't you think all of these things definitely make for an interesting sort of commentary here? One of the biggest things about this entire thing is all supply and demand. If there's not enough supply, well, obviously you're going to go digital. Like, take a look at something like Pokemon Pokopia. Remember how the physical sales for that game were so low that it was so hard to pick up that in fact eBay scalpers were scalping that game? We also know the games that are apparently in the 7 games that sold really well for PlayStation are only 100,000. One of them is Resident Evil Requiem, which is a game that, I don't know if you remember, that game was really hard to find. It didn't matter if you were on PlayStation or Xbox or Switch 2. That game was incredibly hard to find. And half of these other games, like Lego Batman and Call of Duty, these are all games that are either not on the disc itself, or they're just like, there's either a sale going on in the store, or there's going to be something else going on entirely. But this is definitely something that you look at, and if there's not enough supply for the games, obviously they're going to sell more on a digital format, because if you can't access the game sort of anywhere else, that way's sort of going to go. Now, I know I'm kind of talking to digital media. Yeah, this is going to happen. If they get rid of physical, well, there's obviously going to be the way to go, the PlayStation Store. But like, this isn't really the way that you want it to go. If anything, anyone's just going to jump over to Nintendo, jump over to PC, because what's the point on buying a PlayStation after all of this thing? Honestly, hope that Sony says something about this, because I'm going to tell you right now that their sales are going to drop. Xbox is going to go to second place. Nintendo's in first. And PC, we can say maybe they're all the way to the top, but still, Nintendo's in first for physical games formats. Overall, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that this is really interesting? Do you think that the backcry, the backlash, doesn't make any sense to the data? Or do you think it's perfectly well justified? Half the people there complaining are people that love Nintendo. I'm just saying, Nintendo is the way to go. You want to keep your games? Join us on the Nintendo train, because you own your games. You see this? This is what you get. And in fact, these are all fully physical cartridge games that you take your game out and you immediately play it. That's what the true physical experience actually is about. Not this downloading stuff that you need a 2 terabyte SSD to hold all your games. It's not a game keycard, a true physical game. Anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Physical games.